All right, let's jump right into this. We're going to talk about a hidden force that shapes our world, and it involves a pretty unexpected collision. On one side, you've got a centuries-old document, the U.S. Constitution, and on the other, the super high-speed world of global finance. When those two things clash, well, it could put the entire system at risk. So let's start this off with a bit of a puzzle. Picture this. You have the U.S. Supreme Court. It's a place that moves at a, let's say, deliberate pace. It's all about looking back, weighing these legal principles that are hundreds of years old. And then you have the complete opposite, a global financial crisis, where trillions of dollars are moving in seconds and markets are imploding in real time. The connection between these two worlds is not obvious at all. But when you find it, you uncover this new and frankly, kind of scary kind of risk, a fragility created by the courts sitting right at the heart of the international money system. To really get this connection, we need to peek under the hood of the global economy. See, there's this invisible engine that keeps the whole thing running. And it's not just about how big the U.S. economy is. It's about a unique legal architecture that allows the U.S. to act as the world's financial firefighter when things get dicey. For decades, this power has been managed by an incredible tag team, the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury. Think of them as two sides of the same coin. The Treasury's job is to create the world's safest asset, U.S. government debt. And the Fed manages interest rates and, crucially, steps in with emergency cash when a panic starts. Now, what's wild is that you will not find this power duo in the original Constitution. It was built piece by piece over time. It really kicked off back in the 1930s when the courts gave Congress the green light to hand off huge amounts of economic authority to expert agencies. This was a monumental change, and it's what led to the modern Fed-Treasury relationship. The key point, this whole thing is based on a political agreement, not a direct constitutional command. And that brings us to the single most important legal idea here, delegation. It's the whole foundation. All it means is that Congress can pass authority to expert agencies to handle complex problems. Sounds simple, right? But it's everything. Without delegation, you don't have the modern Fed, you don't have a rapid crisis response. It is literally the legal DNA of the dollar's global power. So this system has been humming along in the background for a long time. But now a new challenge is popping up from the one institution that has, for the most part, stayed out of the global finance game, the Supreme Court. That foundational principle we just talked about, delegation, the legal permission slip for this whole setup, is now being put under a microscope. The Supreme Court is basically rethinking the very idea of how much power Congress is even allowed to give away. And look, this isn't just one little change. It's a major legal shift coming from several directions at once. Take the Major Questions Doctrine. It basically says that for any huge, impactful action, an agency needs super clear, explicit permission from Congress. The problem? The laws that give the Fed its power were written to be flexible on purpose, to deal with crises nobody could predict. You see the issue? Each of these new rules chips away at the speed and discretion you need to fight a financial fire. This takes a really old question in American law. Who gets to decide? And puts it on the global stage. And for the first time, the answer doesn't just affect what happens inside the U.S. It could shake the stability of the entire world's financial system. So what you have is this head-on collision. It's the world of global finance, which is all about speed and looking forward, smashing into the world of constitutional law, which is all about being slow, deliberate, and looking backward. And at the center of this collision is the key concept for this whole explainer, constitutional liquidity power. Let's unpack that. It's not just about having money. It's about a country's legal capacity to provide emergency cash to the world. It's having the legal framework that lets your central bank act, and act decisively. And in the U.S., that very power is now at risk. This slide really nails the core of the problem. A court case can take years. A financial crisis unfolds in hours, maybe even minutes. You just can't apply legal ideas that demand slow, careful action from Congress to a financial system that needs an immediate, overwhelming response to stop a meltdown. The timelines are completely incompatible. So why does any of this matter if you don't live in the U.S.? Well, because this internal American legal fight has now become a source of global systemic risk. The dollar's stability now depends on 9 justices who, let's be honest, aren't trained to think about the international fallout of their decisions. You can easily picture how this plays out. A crisis hits somewhere in the world. Panic spreads. Everybody makes a mad dash for U.S. dollars. The Fed and Treasury know exactly what to do, but they hesitate. They have to ask, is this legal under the court's new rules? That hesitation,
even for just a few hours, could be the difference between putting out a small fire and watching the whole world burn. And if you're wondering if someone else can just step in, the answer is pretty much no. When you look at the other big players, you see why. The EU is fragmented. It takes them forever to get everyone to agree. China can control its own system, but it doesn't have the global trust to be the world's stabilizer. Only the US has what's called liquidity sovereignty, that unified power to be the lender of last resort for the planet. And that's the real kicker. There is no plan B. The global financial system is built on the dollar, and that whole structure depends on a specific American legal foundation that is now shaky. The rest of the world has no choice but to be a spectator to these internal US legal fights.
Which leaves us with one final, profound question. The US Constitution was designed for a small republic in the 18th century. It was never intended to be the operating system for a 21st century global monetary empire. So can a domestic legal document designed for one era possibly sustain a global financial order in another? The answer to that is going to shape the future for everyone.